picking up mail on the fly, and improving the operation of a Lionel accessory on this episode of Toy Train Tips and Tricks. Hello again, this is Mike with another episode of Toy Train Tips and Tricks, and this is a new-in-the-box Lionel number 612729 operating mail pickup set. These were cataloged from 1988 to 1991 and then again in 1995. They're reissues of the Lionel number 161 mail pickup set that was cataloged from 1961 to 1963. Based on the graphics of the box, I'd say that this is the late 1980s version. While there's little difference between the 60s and 1980s versions, the originals can fetch $100 or more in excellent condition, while the reissues can be found new, like this one, for under $25. So if you're an operator, go for the newer version. I was attracted to this one by the low price. I had never seen one in operation before, but now that I have seen it working, I wonder why it has not been more popular among operators. Opening the box, we see a modified Lionel semaphore, instructions, and a bag of parts. The bag includes wire, a push button, a large red mail bag, and a small magnet with an adhesive backing, along with an extension arm. Attach the arm to the base following the included instructions. Here's the basic operation. When a mail bag is attached to the sweeper arm, at the press of a button, the arm can swing outwards towards the tracks while the semaphore drops down. A magnet mounted to a car or caboose on the passing train grabs the mail bag, and the sweeper arm and semaphore automatically revert to their original positions. But how realistic is this? Did passing trains really grab bags of mail on the fly? Indeed they did, and not just mail, but printed train orders as well. The United States Congress designated all railroads as official mail routes in 1838, allowing mail to be carried on passenger trains between designated stations. By 1862, American railways were utilizing purpose-built railway post office cars, or RPOs, to not only carry mail between major cities, but also to sort mail en route and deliver it to stations along the right-of-way. Mail intended for smaller towns where the train did not stop could simply be tossed from the moving train, much in the way of Lionel's operating mail car. But what about mail to be picked up from these smaller stations? How could bags of mail safely and securely be loaded onto a fast-moving train? A postal worker would attach a mail bag to a special apparatus that would extend the bag toward the tracks and hold it steady. A second postal worker, on the train, would extend a metal hook, either handheld or more often permanently attached to the outside of the RPO car, and grab the mail bag on the fly while the train sped on to its destination. This operation was a regular sight at train stations across America until the mid-1960s, when the railroads began losing mail contracts to trucks and planes. Prior to that, many passenger routes actually earned more money from carrying the mail than they did from carrying passengers. A similar operation was used to deliver paper orders from the train dispatcher to both freight and passenger rail crews along the route. The dispatcher would telegraph, phone, or later radio instructions to the local station or tower operator, who would print out the orders for delivery to both the locomotive and caboose crew. First, the operator would engage a train order signal, a special semaphore, or light signal telling the crew to slow down to receive orders. You can see the train order light signal on the roof of this passenger station in the photo. Then the train orders would be attached to a special pole by string and held up to the engineer, who would lean out the locomotive window with his arm extended to snag the order with his elbow. The process would be repeated for the conductor in the caboose or the following passenger cars. The process was commonly called hooping orders. Some stations had permanent order stands constructed to improve crew safety and the accuracy of the order transfer. This operation was common into the early 1980s when railroad work rules changed to allow the orders to be read to the train crews by radio and repeated back to the dispatcher by the train crews to check for accuracy. If you're enjoying this video so far, how about a like for the video, or maybe subscribe to the channel to let YouTube know that you like this kind of content. Leave a comment if you've ever had a number 161, a reissue, or a similar accessory by another company. Now, back to the video. Lionel's accessory looks a bit like a cross between these two operations. The semaphore looks and operates like a standard train order signal, while the extending arm somewhat resembles a permanent order hooping stand. The method of transferring the bag is most like an RPO, grabbing the mail bag, and the bag itself is clearly way too large to represent train orders. In any case, with only a mild suspension of reality, Lionel's accessory could represent either of these ground-to-train transfer operations, depending on your era and the type of train, and of course your preferences. As designed by Lionel, alignment of the accessory in the pickup car is essential. Lionel's instructions stress that the accessory base should be 2 1/4 inches from the nearest rail. Then, the small magnet must be perfectly aligned with the extension arm and mail bag, and permanently attached to the outside of the selected car or caboose. For the post-war number 161, a small tube of glue was included. For my reissue, the magnet has an adhesive backing. For me, this is a major downside to the accessory. Sure, you can paint the magnet to match the car and disguise it in some way, but to permanently attach a magnet to the outside of a car seems a bit extreme to me. Also, if you're the slightest bit out of alignment, the bag can miss the magnet altogether and the pickup will not work. Also, the Lionel instructions stress that the selected pickup car must be the widest car on the train. The mail bag must be held very close to the car without hitting any other part of the train. For example, the standard Lionel boxcar has an overhang of about 1/4 inch beyond the railhead, while this FP7 diesel extends around 1/2 inch. If the bag is set for the boxcar to intercept, the locomotive will strike the bag first, knocking it out of the way. But what about a larger, more powerful magnet? Can I mount a magnet inside the car and increase the necessary distance between the car and the accessory? These large craft magnets are 99 cents a pair at Harbor Freight, or about $4 a pair at Menards. Let's see what happens if we mount one of these inside the car. I secured one of these magnets inside this non-operating U.S. mail boxcar with Gorilla Poster mounting putty. I use that stuff on everything. It holds the magnet securely, but it's completely removable should I change my mind. And it works. Not only is my magnet inside the car instead of outside, improving the look of the operation, but the more powerful magnet can make the bag exchange with the accessory placed more than 3 inches away from the track. This is more than enough clearance for any locomotive or rolling stock. And as a bonus, the long rectangular shape of the magnet provides a larger target area, so the bag transfer could be made successfully even at higher speeds. Let's wire it up and make sure it works properly. Wiring the accessory is easy. One wire from the transformer goes to one connection on the accessory. This accessory is not wired to the track in any way, so it doesn't matter which side you choose. The other wire from the transformer goes to a push button, and then from the push button to the other connection on the signal. For best results, use a small variable voltage transformer for this accessory. If you have a surplus starter set transformer, that would be great. The reason is if you supply insufficient power to the signal, the extension arm and bag will not set themselves into place properly. Too much power, and the vibrations from the AC power will shake the bag off the arm. Find the sweet spot in the voltage that will move the arm without losing the bag. Once the bag is set in place, release the button. The bag will hang in place and the semaphore will remain in the down position until the bag is picked up or something disturbs the arm. The accessory works best if the train approaches the bag from the side facing the semaphore, with the accessory on the engineer's side or the right side when viewed from the cab. Then, as the bag is grabbed by the moving car, the momentum caused by the pickup will push the extension arm back and away from the train, and the semaphore will return to the clear indication. Meanwhile, the big red bag carries merrily along on your rail car. Then, retrieve the bag, reload, and do it again. Another advantage of the aftermarket magnet is you can have a number of cars or cabooses available for use with the accessory instead of a single designated car. If you are a real pro, add a magnet inside an operating mail car and try to both toss a mailbag and pick up another in a single operation, just like the real thing. Of course, I must mention that Lionel was neither the only manufacturer nor the first to make a mail pickup accessory. As early as 1930, and perhaps even earlier, American Flyer offered a mail pickup mechanism for both O-gauge and wide-gauge trains. The Flyer system used a metal clip attached to the side of an RPO car to grab a hanging mailbag and sling it inside the car. A similar version was offered in the American Flyer S-gauge line throughout the post-war era. While the Flyer system operated in a more prototypical manner than Lionel's, the metal clips and bag stand could cause damage to the passenger cars over time. With my magnet modification, I only foresee two difficulties with the operation of the accessory. One is that it must still be firmly secured in place, which complicates its use on temporary layouts. The other is that 2 1/4 to 3 inches is really a long way from the side of the track, much farther away than most trackside signals or accessories. This can make choosing a good location on your permanent layout challenging. In fact, I've decided that there's no good place for the accessory on my current configuration of my layout. But I have a perfect spot in mind when I finally get around to building phase 2 of my layout. Once that phase is complete, there will be mailbags flying everywhere. I now have a much greater appreciation for this often overlooked Lionel accessory. Maybe you can add one to your layout. Keep the trains running and deliver the mail on time, and we'll catch you next time with more toy train tips and tricks.